All right, we are live Saturday edition of Market Movers with Justin Perri, and of course, the donkey of the day, the donkey parlay of the day, decides to hit last plus 745 if you played it. You know, we started talking about not wanting to play a parlay, and then obviously gave in and created one on the show and told you there was a 92% chance of it not winning. And what happens? It hits. How you feel about that?
I love sitting in the 8%, I love it. Look, there's a reason why you sometimes play a parlay. I'm going to, take the money and run a little bit. We're going to take the winning bit on the show and run. And you know what we said yesterday is that if we hit it, we're going to have to keep trying and keep putting them together for you guys. So we'll try to get another one today. You never know. You never know with these things. And if you played it yesterday, you're up for a couple more tries. So there's that.
That's for sure. The point of it yesterday was truly for it to lose, to point out how difficult it is to just simply bet baseball favorites and parlay them and think you're going to, have a plus 700 victory. But that is what happened last night. The teams won, all of them. There was a sketchy game with the Rays. The Yankees got a little sketchy for a second as well. Nationals absolute blowout winner. Padres game was pretty comfortable. It was a interesting day, but we'll put one together today. I can't even freaking talk today. I don't know what's going on with me there.
Saturday,
but it's a Saturday. I didn't drink anything last night. Just the same. Totally chilling, but can't say the same for tonight. I might, have a few adult beverages before the Sunday brunch edition of the Early Edge tomorrow morning, but we will see.
There we go.
All right, let's look at some of the action, unless you have any general thoughts, anything educational you want to drop before we dig in. Obviously, let me pull up chat.
Yeah, I was talking about on Twitter about there was someone asking about what actually happens with air density and why we look at it so much and what the heck does it really mean. It actually comes down to gravity, where it's all about gravity. It's all about how high up in the air. Well, we were talking about Colorado, so let me preface it with that. But in Colorado, especially with the altitude, the gravity is actually pulling on the air particles less, which means less things like little tiny particles for the ball to hit while traveling, and that does create air resistance, which does create drag force, which in lower altitudes usually means the ball doesn't go as far. So a little bit on that. Nothing too crazy. Just trying to look at what the market sort of has done. One other little blip. I know last night you tweeted out a couple of the movement bits on a couple of the totals last night. And what was fascinating to me is that only one of the lines actually hit in the direction it was moving. So really important thing to point out that sometimes late market movement and chasing steam, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be on the winning side, and it actually might mean that you're on the losing side more often than not. So there's definitely no trick to oh man, the market moved, I better follow what the market's thinking, because as you could see from those lines last night, it can just lead you astray totally.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that for sure. So, and I'll give one more, probably way too scientific explanation, but basically when you're looking at air density, humidity, all of the things that's going to impact the flight of the baseball, the most counterintuitive thing is probably the fact that you want high humidity for baseball flight. Typically, someone thinks that humid air going to be more dense, ball's not going to travel as well. However, when the air is humid, the water is going to be added to the air, which is basically displacing oxygen and nitrogen. Oxygen and nitrogen are actually heavier molecules, which would be stopping and slowing down the baseball. So the water, while it is adding water and moisture to the air, that is still going to allow less resistance on a baseball flying through the air than the nitrogen or oxygen that would be there when the water is not trying to displace it.
Right, because oxygen is a diatome and actually has 2 oxygen atoms per molecule, while water weighs about half of that. And then nitrogen is just much heavier. So it's also a diatome. So again, there's a lot of that gas in the air, and water, like you said, just weighs less. So look, that's why, they have humidors in some places where it's dry, and that's why, we like playing in humid air with low density, because it's just like a gift. But anything you seeing on the weather side, how are the VMIs looking today? I haven't actually taken too good of a look just yet.
Yeah, we'll pull that up. I'll comment from the comments here. Damn, this is a science class now. Yeah, if you actually send me any of your educational information, I will lobby to get you at least half a credit or 1 credit unit for attending the Market Movers segment every day. We'll see what we can do.
Little known bit. I studied physics in school, so you will definitely hear a lot of dynamics talk out of me when we're talking about sports, and especially in baseball, where it really matters. I mean, it matters a little less in, like, obviously basketball doesn't make too much of a difference, but football, you do have weather considerations too. But baseball, it really comes down to that focal action, like the pitching of the ball and the movement of the ball in the air is so important to the sport. So it really has such a role in baseball more than others.
Yeah, I would say more so than like I would be interested to look at it in a sport like golf just a little bit. But the issue with golf is just like where you're positioning. You can always club up, club down, and it really, you can adjust for it. Whereas you're hitting the ball once and then a bat in baseball. The pitch, obviously, the thing that's not talked about, which it'll catch up in 5 years probably, but we all focus on the flight of the baseball leaving the bat. We're not talking much about the ball traveling from the pitcher's hand to the home plate. Right. Which is what people will get into over the next 5 years. But let's quickly look at the air density and some of the VMI stuff. Oakland, we'll run through all the games really quickly on that first, I think. I think that's going to be a fun way to do it as the viewers are learning more about some of this data. Oakland, Minnesota, pretty decent air density here. Anything under 65, especially this time of year still, is going to be very good air density to get in. About average of +5 on the VMI for the Twins and the A's here. Kind of makes a lot of sense. You would probably wish you could have seen some of that materialize last night. I think you had an overplay in that one. Los Angeles Angels and Boston. Air density 68 here, which is actually not bad for Boston. It typically is not going to get super low in Boston unless it's in the middle of the summer. Pretty even VMI overall, -1.5 for the Angels, +1.5 for the home team, Boston. Detroit. No, definitely nothing to write home about. So actually some of those spots, though, I will say, I'm looking at VMI. If I find VMI where it's like at baseline, which is also going to be very comfortable for them, I am very okay with that if it's a strong hitting environment as well. Because it's going to play like it's supposed to, essentially. So next game, Cubs and Tigers, positive VMI for both of them. 4 for the Cubs, 2.7 for the Tigers. Air density 66. We're seeing air densities across the board in 60s. There's actually not a single game on the slate that has an air density above 69.
Nice.
That's a lot of good weather out there today.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting day on the field, and some good wind too. I mean, I'm looking through this data right now. I mean, maybe not in like that Atlanta-Milwaukee game, but it's going to be an interesting day for the overs. I mean, I know yesterday it was a little bit under heavy. I was a little surprised. I mean, I know. Yep. I'll have to make sure of that, but it was an interesting day for sure.
Definitely. All right, let's look at the games as they're scheduled. First game on the board, there has to have been a pitcher. There was no pitcher declared for the Mets until earlier this morning.
Makes sense.
Rays open -120, sitting at -148 at home against the Mets. McClanahan on the mound for the Rays. Drew Smith getting the start for the New York Mets. I do not know much about Drew Smith, right-handed pitcher. Would have to look more into it, but that's why that one is moved to the point that it has.
Public seems to be on the over there, which is very interesting at 7.5. It came down from 8 though, so it looks like it's going to be an interesting. I don't really know how to make this game. I mean, McClanahan is like the hottest new thing, right? So People are probably going to be trending towards his name. Probably put some Mets value on the board there. If you really wanted to play like the public favorites, it's probably going to be McClanahan. And with how cold the Tampa Bay bats have been, I really don't hate a plus 130 line against the Rays.
Yep.
Even if it is the Mets. So.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I have to look at. I want to look at some of the run scoring distributions from this year based on some of the comment that we've seen in the chat. Obviously, I mean the first inning should be a highest scoring inning. It's the best hitters at the plate, guaranteed on both sides. So that's why the no run first inning is almost always a bad bet in terms of value.
Right.
But that's a question we're getting in the chat is about no run first inning is the comment about that game. While that is still likely, relatively likely to happen, the betting value, especially as certain entities try to brand the no run first innings thing, it's certainly all the value on the no run first inning is certainly sucked out. The value is almost always going to be on will a run be scored in the first inning.
Yeah. I have to agree, and something I definitely want to touch on because I've heard a lot of talk about those bets, and the problem can be is like pitchers settle in. Like you can I had a game just like I think on Friday or Thursday where I had a pitcher give up 4 runs in the first frame and then he locks it down, and so that can happen a lot, and guys can come out aggressive looking to capitalize on a pitcher who doesn't really know how he's going to sequence his pitches. They jump on early pitches. You have lead off home runs. It happens often. I think I would never play a no run first innings on the Nationals because you got like Trey Turner coming up and Juan Soto and all these guys. It's just a mess. So,
it makes so much sense, right? So like when you should be betting no run to score is frankly the second inning, right? So on average, right? Like, so when you're looking at it, though, the first inning is the only inning in the game when you're guaranteed to have in theory, the 6 best hitters at the plate. You're getting the top of the order from both sides of the ball, right? They're the top of the order because they are the best hitters in the lineup. If that is true, and we know that is, they often put runners on base, even if they do not score. Instead of if they don't go 1, 2, 3, you're looking, it would in theory be 4, 5, 6, but you're likely putting someone on because first inning run scoring is such a high run scoring environment. The second inning should be the lowest in theory because it's the one time where you're most likely to have the bottom 2/3 of the order of both teams in the inning. And you go look at run scoring distributions for the history of Major League Baseball, essentially, you're going to find that the number 1 scoring inning is the first inning. The worst run scoring inning is going to be the second inning. Probably. Oh yeah, you could find that bet at almost all of the regulated books. You'll be able to bet run scoring and a money line, all of that on every single inning if you want to. But I can tell you for a fact, especially with certain outlets branding the NRFI as their little acronym, there is zero value betting no runs first inning in terms of a simulation percent. And if, like I said, it's counterintuitive, like, oh yeah, they only have to get 3 outs. It's, start the game. Pitchers are sharp at that point. But again, it's the only time in the game where you're guaranteed to have the best hitters at the plate on both sides, which is why, I mean, it's not even a matter of my opinion. It's quite literally a fact for the entire history of baseball. It's over a full run difference between first and second.
And I mean, and we always try to shed some light on the way the industry works, right? Because you're never really going to be positioned into something that, you might not have considered if from the book, like a book advertising something, come on, that's like a used car salesman pointing out the first one on the lot. You sort of got to remember what their business is. It's important to look at most things in life that way, I'll say. And if they're pushing something like, no runs in the first inning, adding branding, I mean, NRFI is not something I had really heard until this season. So it is definitely being pushed. I know that there have been a couple people in your Discord who have tracked it and have found some profit on it. But I would probably be on the lookout for weird things like, it being worse on the weekend because you have more fans in the stands, or games are on TV, and all these things that like the human elements sort of factor in with. It's definitely not something that I think people really have modeled out so well yet. And like you said, when you look at it from a pure projection standpoint, it definitely looks like there's value probably on saying yes runs in the first inning, if anything, and then probably saying no runs in the second. And I'm sure we could probably go look at things, and I'll actually maybe go take a peek at this afternoon and maybe query the SDQL database and see if I can find like the number of games that have first inning runs and second inning no runs, and then just both of those things individually, because I'm sure there's fascinating data in there. It's just, of course, digging.
Yep, that's the question in the chat, Bundy. That's exactly what I am saying there. Without even running some of the numbers, I can tell you at this point that betting yes score first inning would be more profitable than betting no run first inning in the current environment. I can tell you that the no run first inning is most definitely juiced to the point where it's not saying there will never be value. And I'm not saying that if you're looking for a quick win with two aces on the mound, that it's not a play that's going to hit with a relatively high probability or relatively high frequency. But in terms of the value is absolutely going to be on the run to be scored and not the no scoring. All right, let's go back to some of the games. Let me pull up money line again. Angels Red Sox is kind of interesting. Not a ton. I mean, it opened -110, it says on both sides. Red Sox settling in at +105, taking 65% of the bets. It appears the Angels might be a slight sharp side there.
Yeah, looking at it.
I would say that they're probably a little bit of the sharp side there, although I pretty much have it efficient in the model myself. I think that having Anthony Rendon back in that lineup against a left-handed pitcher is definitely a very good thing for this lineup. You have anything on this one?
Not particularly. I definitely had noticed that the Angels were the sharp side. I thought that they probably had a good shot yesterday, but Boston sort of responded to them in the seventh inning after they scored 2 runs to take the lead. I do think that they have a good shot to come out and take this game. Boston has not been nearly as impressive as they, opened the season, and, they were running so hot, best offense in the league. You got to remember, it's been a week since we really had those things to say about Boston. The last game last Sunday was, their last game on Monday. They played 5 games this week. They've only scored more than 4 runs once, and they exploded for 8. They kind of had a bad little skid. I don't think they're that Red Sox team that you saw, in early May, late April. I think that the value on LA becoming the favorite is definitely the smart play. The time to take them might have passed already, but I do think Angels probably get this game.
Yeah, I know we have a play on the Red Sox on Sportsline. I mean, I'm not going to shock me at all if they win this one. I played the over this morning in this one at over 9.5. Basically baseline VMI, but I do love a day game at Fenway. Anytime the air density index is under 70, we get it at 68 here. As I mentioned, I love the Angels having Rendon back in that lineup, getting Trout, Rendon, Upton, all 3. Some of the top tier hitters against left-handed pitching. Great park shift for them. So that's why I'm on it there. It has moved to 10 on FanDuel. I think it might close at 10, although we're not seeing any buying on William Hill yet. It's still -110 for the over there. I think that this one the consensus is going to close around 10, I think for sure. So if you're still watching this and want to play it along with me, that is one that I did play today. Take the over 9.5 in the Angels and the Red Sox.
We got Chicago, Detroit also at 410. That's total set at 9. Under has the juice. Chicago's the favorite, and it looks like we touched on it briefly. There's positive VMI for both teams. Air density's at 66, but it's a dry day. 22% humidity at Commercia. This is an interesting one. If Chris Bryant is back in the lineup, which I'm actually unsure about, it looks like he is. I don't see
He
an
played.
injury
He
report
played
on him.
last night.
Oh, he did.
However,
He got that win.
it's a spot on a afternoon after night game that one of them could get the day off.
Yeah.
Wouldn't shock me though. I don't expect him to be completely out of the lineup. I think he could DH if there's any concern there, because they are in the American League Park.
And that's a good DH for them, and usually you do hear about fading National League teams at the American League Park because they have to put in a bench player, they don't have a designated hitter ready to go. But I think this is another game for the Cubs, honestly. Again, the Tigers were kind of riding a little too high. The public perception on them is probably a little too good after sweeping the Royals. Plus 117, I definitely think that's a little too much respect for the Tigers today. So I'd probably play the Cubs if I had to.
I would have if I had got it at the opening number. I'm not playing it at minus 134 now. It says that I could have gotten it at minus 120 last night. Apparently, I most definitely missed. Minus 122 is my number in the model, actually. So it's not showing value on the other side on the Tigers, but there's no value on either side for me. While I do think the Cubs win, I would lean towards the over. However, that's going to depend heavily on Trevor Williams. If he's going to walk and put men on base for Detroit, it's going to be good. If not, Detroit, they're one of those teams that can very consistently put up 1 run, 2 runs.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately. So pretty easy stay away for me on that one. But if I had to, the leans would be Chicago and over in that one. Line movement and Pirates Giants. I'm wondering if we had another pitching change. If not, it's Giants opened minus 140. They are currently minus 115.
They lost that game yesterday in pretty gross fashion. I mean, we were talking about it, right? How we felt that, that value on the Giants was just way too steep. I mean, it was getting like minus 190, closed at minus 195. I mean, that's a brutal loss for anyone who grabbed the Giants at the end. And a great win for anyone who took the Pirates. And I know the Pirates were the sharp side, and we talked on it a little bit. But I think this is a nice little revenge game for the Giants. Johnny Cueto's older than like most of the people like in high school in terms of his playing career, I feel like, but he probably can still do it. This Pirates roster isn't all that great. All it's really going to take is some offense. I mean, that was the problem yesterday. The pitching was fine for the Giants. 2 runs through 10 innings is great, but like you need your offense to score more than 2 to beat the Pirates. It's just for anyone in baseball. So
yeah,
I think the offense comes alive today for the Giants. I think they do win it, but again, not a play for me just now. But money's going to the Pirates, so I don't know.
Yeah, this is the problem for me, right? So this is one where it's approaching a value bet territory, but the reason it's approaching it is because of the extreme buyback on the other side. So for me, if I had to play it, it most definitely would not be a full play. It would probably be my standard quarter to 0.3 of a unit.
Yeah.
So I made the Giants minus 126. I can get them now at minus 115, and it's trending like it might close at minus 113, minus 112. Like if I'm going to be getting, 8 to 10 cents there, I could get to the point where I'd be comfortable putting a quarter unit on it. I obviously had no value on it when it was minus 140 when it opened. So it's one of those situations where like, obviously there's a very strong signal there for some reason. There was not a pitching change. Anderson was supposed to pitch yesterday. It was announced that he was moved to start to today. I'm going to stay away from it for now. I'll let you guys know if I decide to play a little bit on it, but always cautious. This has happened a few, right? Where it's like, I don't have a play on the game, but I have an edge on a team. And then it becomes a play late in the day because the market has moved so extreme. So like I said, in this situation, I generally stay away, but we will see. Next game, Yankees open minus 170, currently sitting minus 157 at William Hill. About 13 cents of movement in the wrong direction there. I think that I want to say that is slightly due to how good Jorge Lopez has been at times. He's flashed brilliance at times. But then I think the obvious reason here is going to be no Giancarlo Stanton, and Gio Urshela is listed as questionable in this one. The combination of losing both of them means we're going to see Higashioka and Gary Sanchez both hitting in the lineup today. I think that's probably the combination of having to play both of those two and losing Stanton and Urshela. I think that's probably why you see 13 cents of movement there. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't necessarily love this game for either team. I'd probably it's crazy. The line for this over is about to move to 9. It looks like it's sitting at like -125 for over 8.5. I'm partial to the under on this. I don't really know where the Yankees are going to get run production without some of those names in there. Jorge Lopez has been solid, but also not great, and people are probably going to fade German and see these ERAs. But this is exactly one of those games where neither team's really going to get it going, and like a classic AL East, 2-1 game where I think maybe the Orioles win, and you might see that as a play for me. Honestly, I do think that +140 line, which actually hasn't even moved enough to make me worry. It's stayed pretty steady, maybe 5.
It hasn't moved at all. It's just the juice down on the Yankees.
Yeah, so this seems like a really nice place to fade the Yankees for me. If anything, this might very well come out to be a sports line play for me within the next hour or so. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm looking at everything here. I am absolutely stunned at how right-handed the Yankees are in their current form. I'm projecting today they're facing a right-handed pitcher, and they're only going to be able to get 2 left-handed bats in the lineup, and that's Brett Gardner and Tyler Wade.
Oof, which come on, those it's not like that. Those are the bats that are going to strike fear into the hearts of the pitchers on the other.
For some perspective on that, their 2 left-handed bats are the bare minimum salary on FanDuel. Wearing Yankees uniforms, and they're still the bare minimum salary, minimum $2,000 salary on FanDuel. All right, next game, we'll kind of speed up a little bit as we run through these. We're approaching 30 minutes. Let's see. Astros game looks like it opened at -180, can come down to -160 in some spots at William Hill for the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
Braves, let's see. Phillies, Blue Jays, major movement there. Have to double check and see if there was a pitching change.
Nola's pitching Phillies. Anthony K. I don't know. I doubt he was the projected starter. That feels like there might have been a starter change because this guy has an 0-2 record, 10.24 ERA. I can't imagine that the favorite switch. No?
Right. Yeah. -140. I'm going to say that was a pitching change. The Blue Jays appear to potentially be a sharp side in this one still, but -1, you can get it -135 in some spots almost on the Phillies with Nola on the mound. Real Muto and Gregorius are both questionable. I'm guessing one of the two sits, potentially even Real Muto. Typically, I think he's going to have the most impact as a plus hitting, plus catcher. But I don't have any play on this one, but I know you might maybe.
I want to ask your thoughts on this next game. Did you see what Washington did to Arizona last night?
I did. They were they helped me, honestly. Helped me have it okay. I kind of pushed throughout the day on my 2 plays on the early edge. Lost the first inning run scored bet for the Kansas City Royals side only. But I did have a little bit sprinkled on Kansas City +190. So that kind of pushed me over. And then the daily fantasy last night was good because I had a lot of Washington National stacks.
What do you think of them today? Are they going to cool off? Are they going to be able this Frankoff fellow for then the Diamondbacks doesn't have an ERA listed, so that means he hasn't pitched this year. We don't really know what he's dealing with. I'm not very familiar with him, but Washington's coming in with another really big positive VMI, getting to play in that arid air, which for whatever reason they're loving. Do they do it again? Does Joe Ross notch a win in a dramatic fashion at -120 for the Nationals?
It's possible. We will get to the donkey parlay, Connor. Don't you worry. We're going to get there. Starting to get the donkey parlay in the chat. That's coming next. But as far as Joe Ross here, let me see if I can pull up where I had it. Yeah, it's about where I had it. I had it -112. I still love the offenses on both sides. I just do not I don't trust Joe Ross at all, especially on the road here.
That's fair.
if I was looking to play this game, I would consider the Nationals team total over.
Smart. That's smart.
That's one I would consider. Victor Robles is questionable. I want his speed at the bottom of that lineup in front of Trey Turner in. That's just huge.
Trey is raking. It's crazy. He's so
absolutely is. And that's what I love. Like Trey getting on base is just massive for Harris, Soto, Schwarber behind him. Yeah. When they're just going to be such a high variance team, and it's going to come down to when Trey's hitting well and getting on base consistently. It's tough to keep a run off the board if he's on base with 0 outs.
Yeah,
it's like the run expectancy for them when he is on base, even at first base with no outs, has to be approaching 1 run.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, especially with the guys that they have behind him with Harrison, Soto, and Schwarber, and even Castro at the end of the day. And then Bell was raking against the Phillies too. I mean, they have a powerful lineup. I mean, they have such an interesting strategy to the way their team is made. I'm actually fascinated by the Nationals. They're really like an epitome of the all or nothing strategy in terms of roster construction. And I was reading an article a little bit about how, they basically are saying like, look, when we have all 3 of our great pitchers going, good luck against us in the series. But essentially, if they don't have Scherzer and Strasburg, and then I'm blanking on who else they have, that third guy coming up behind them. But, they're going to be formidable in a series if you have to face their best pitchers and this hitting, and win 3 games, and it's going to be tough. So I really like the Nationals if they can keep pace in the NL East. They're like a huge experiment, which is just fascinating to me.
Yep. Reds game, a massive movement, has to be a pitching change as well. Yeah, it was. It was definitely a pitching change. A lot of questionables there. Senzel, Moustakas, both questionable. Charlie Blackmon, Tapia questionable on the Rockies side. Got some rain in the forecast. Only 61 degrees there today.
Feels like an under. Really feels like after the mashing of the ball that's gone on. I mean, the teams have combined for 21 runs the first game, and then 15 the second game. So you're talking about almost 40 runs across 2 games. I mean, this is that spot where I think the Reds probably are going to maybe, I don't know, shut them down, but, it could very easily be like a 5-3 Reds win here, as Rockies have already won the series. And like you said, there's a lot of questionable parts, which they need Charlie Blackmon. He's a big part of their offense.
For sure. Man, I'm looking for the parlay of the day, and this one's probably going to pay a lot depending on if we have to give 5 games again. I personally think we should, just because I want to. I want the damn thing to lose, so I can teach you to not bet parlays. But we'll see. We'll see what we do. All right, he's got to hop off anyway. We'll do it real quick. But last game of the day, I've got a play up on it from the early edge. I took the Padres minus 130. Pretty standard for me there. Showing a couple sharp signals on St. Louis, despite not really much movement in the line. Yeah, that's where we're at.
I wanted to talk about the minus 305 on the Dodgers. I mean, that is crazy. Why? I don't see projected pitchers. Am I missing something? Is it what's his name? It's not Bueller. It's Bauer today.
Potentially, the game's not even posted on William Hill.
Oh, then that must mean I have like a weird consensus line. But I have a consensus line at like minus 300 for the Dodgers on action, and that just seems ridiculous. I don't think that's going to hold.
I would expect it to be minus 220 maybe for Bauer at home. Minus 305 is certainly steep. We'll see what the Marlins are doing. They have not named a starter yet. But I can tell you, we can go ahead and include that in the parlay. I love the chat. The chat. I'm addicted to parlays. I think a lot of people are and enjoy them, but we'll go ahead. I guess I can't put it in because I don't have the game available on William Hill. So let's give them 4 games, and if they want to tack on a Dodgers play in it and go for it, they can. What is your?
All right, my first contribution, I think, is going to be the Cubs today. I don't think the Pirates, the Tigers are good enough to get this game. But I don't know if it should make the donkey parlay. I feel like we should just go with bigger favorites. to sort of show everybody at the end of the day what's going to happen. So, but there aren't that many big favorites. There just really aren't.
No, I think it's totally fine. I think that anything over minus 130 today is playable in the donkey parlay.
Okay.
Just a perfect example. Like I would not bet the parlay, but we're going to do it because that's what the people want.
Wow. Bundy says that Dodgers are minus 320 on FanDuel right now.
Yes. I just opened FanDuel on the iPad here, so I'm going to build the parlay over here. First play in there is the Dodgers minus 320.
Okay.
What else? You want to put the Reds or the
Yeah, I think you got to take the Cubs. I think you got to put the Astros in. They're expected to clobber the Rangers. I'd probably put the White Sox in because they're expected to clobber the Royals with Rodon on the mound. Throw your Padres pick in there.
So that's a 5-teamer right there if we go Padres. So
do you want to include in it, or would you rather like swap in? I think it's a pretty good donkey parlay.
No, it's a great donkey parlay. I'll leave it at this. We're going to have the Los Angeles Dodgers with Trevor Bauer on the mound, the Chicago Cubs with Trevor Williams on the mound. Disgusting. The Houston Astros with Garcia on the mound, the White Sox with Carlos Rodon on the mound, the San Diego Padres with Chris Paddock on the mound. Wrap those all together, and that is plus 842 on FanDuel.
Well,
5-team parlay. Yesterday's 5-teamer was plus 745 on William Hill. And this one we're going to do on FanDuel because they have the Dodgers line up. Plus 842 on the donkey parlay of the day. If this one wins again, I might be time to reevaluate what we're doing here in life because this one is certainly worse value than the one yesterday is going to be, in my opinion.
All right. Before we go, what of the 5 teams do you think blows it? And we'll let anyone in the chat put their guess on it too. I think it's gotta be the White Sox. I think the Royals are gonna shock everyone and win another game against them.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I take the absolute low-hanging fruit, it's obviously going to be the Cubs at minus 130. I'm wearing the Cubs hat, so like, in reality, I mean, obviously, it should be the Cubs or the Padres as the two smallest favorites. But I could get behind the Royals potentially stealing another one. Minor is just someone who, if he's on, he's on. Right. But here we go. Bundy says the Dodgers are going to blow it with minus 300 with Bauer on the mound.
The Dodgers on Saturdays. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Hey man, that 60 is probably good value no matter how you look at it. I mean, you see a minus 305. I don't care if you're Pitbull driving down to Miami. I mean, that's what the consensus is at. I should have said 320, but still, it's steep. There's probably value taking the other team for a small bet. I mean, most models would probably have you sprinkle like 0.1 just because of how inflated this line feels. So.
Correct.
I don't actually have my numbers on it, but that's not a bad play. If you were going to throw $3 at a stupid heavy underdog, it's probably the Marlins today.
Yep. All right. Last time for the ones just joining or listening, we're going to repeat the donkey parlay of the day, and then we're going to get out of here. The donkey parlay of the day. Again, this hit yesterday. It wasn't supposed to. This one is not supposed to hit. This one has an even less, but this is about a 95% probability that it does not hit. Keep that in mind. The Los Angeles Dodgers with Trevor Bauer on the mound. The Chicago Cubs with Trevor Williams. The Houston Astros with Luis Garcia. The Chicago White Sox with Carlos Rodon. And the San Diego Padres with Chris Paddock. All of the teams are playing at home except for the Chicago Cubs on the road in Detroit. Any final thoughts before we head off, or you got it all wrapped up?
I swear, if we go 2-2 on parlays over plus 700, I'll laugh because we have had the weirdest week betting. You know, I've been even the last 3 days, and it was cold after a huge run. You had like the hottest run of all time, and then had a little bit of a bumpy run. And now we're sitting here like on the end of our first week of the show, hitting plus 700 parlays with like, you know, literally trying to throw money into the fire and missing and getting our ticket paid out. So look, that's just how betting is. Hopefully we're here talking with you about another win, but I don't think so. I don't. No way.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly improbable. We're trying to teach you that. Sometimes learning the hard way by making bad decisions and losing is the best way I can teach you, or we can teach you. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Hopefully that message gets across. If not, if it hits, congratulations. Take the money and run with it. Do not continue to roll it over and run it up and try and buy the yacht like I'm going to. But we'll see what happens. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you on Twitter, on Discord. Hit the subscribe button above if you're on YouTube. Get the notifications. Really helps us out there. If you're on Twitch, subscribe over there. Get on the Discord server. Come hang out. We'll post a lot more there. And always on Twitter. Handles are right here on the screen. Make sure you get those. Send any feedback or topics you'd like to cover. I know we've had a lot on the air density. We would love to nerd out with you as long as you guys want to hear it. I don't want to teach a class to someone who doesn't want to be participating at all. But if anyone has anything they'd like to be covered, get as advanced as you want, because that's definitely what we nerd out on. But that's what we'll do. We'll see you guys soon.
Peace.